फर्जंदे ज़हरा ये हालात बुरे हैं।
काशाना-ए-बसीरत एक ऐसा मुकम्मल यूट्यूब चैनल जिस पर महरूम बसारत के लिए बिलखुसूस और तमाम अफराद के लिए बिलमूम सैकड़ों की तादाद में इस्लामी कुतुब दस्तयाब हैं। लिहाजा गुजारिश है कि आप अपनी जिम्मेदारी निभाते हुए काशाना-ए-बसीरत को सब्सक्राइब करने के साथ साथ बेल आइकॉन को प्रेस कीजिए ताकि आप इल्म के हुसूल के साथ साथ मजहब अहले बैत की इशाअत में भी अहम किरदार अदा करते रहें। काशाना-ए-बसीरत
फर्जंदे ज़हरा ये हालात बुरे हैं।
We continue with page number 234 and part number 23. We are facing an important issue which has changed us from your opinion. The king said, "Tell me everything without any fear and hesitation, because till now I was subdued by obstinacy and arrogance, but today I have conquered them. So far I was under their influence, but now I have got over them. I was your ruler till today, and I have enslaved you, but now I am free, and you are the freed people of my country." They said, "Your Majesty, why were you a slave in spite of being our ruler?" The king said, "I was slave of my desires, a bondman of my ignorance, and helpless of my selfish desires. I have myself freed myself from these attachments and thrown them behind." They said, "Your Majesty, what have you decided?" The king said, "I have decided to become a hermit for the sake of the hereafter. I have given up arrogance and removed the burden from my back. I have prepared myself for death and to defend myself from calamities because its emissary has informed me that it has been ordered to remain with me till my death." They said, "Your Majesty, who is the emissary that came to you and that we did not see, which is the prelude of death that we did not recognize?" The king said in reply, "Its messenger is this witness that is shining in blackness and which is screaming decline in everything." The people believed him and became certain that the prelude of death is the calamity of the white path. They said, "Your Majesty, what is abdicate and make your subjects weep? Will you commit the sin of leaving your people without a successor? Don't you know that the greatest reward lies in the welfare of the people, and the best reform is the reform of community? Are you not fearful about this sin? You must be more concerned about public welfare than the well-being of the noble class. Don't you know that the best worship act is doing good to others, and the most difficult deed is ruling a kingdom and administering the nation? So, Your Majesty, as far as possible, you must pay attention to the well-being of the people, because as much you work in this regard, as much you would be rewarded. Your Majesty, it is not true that if you leave the throne and keep away from the affairs of the people, they will fall into perdition. Thus, in this regard, you will be more sinful than you hope for the reward of your special class. Your Majesty, don't you know that the scholars say that one who has destroyed his soul, he has become a cause of the corruption to himself. One has maintained it in order, has maintained the well-being of his body. And what evil can be greater than deserting one's subjects? Your Majesty, will you leave it and take off the black dress which is the medium of the world and the hereafter?" The king said, "I have understood what you have said. If I want to rule you for doing justice and in anticipation of divine rewards, I cannot reach this stage alone regarding you. Are you not obsessed with the world and worldly desires and pleasures? And neither I am certain that I will remain in this condition that I want to come out of. Thus, if I do that, I will die in the condition of ignorance, which will take me down from the throne and make me kiss the ground, and it will make me wear the dress of mud instead of the clothes of silk, gold, and brocade, and precious jewels. And after a spacious place make me enter, after this honor and glory subject me to disgrace. I will then become alone, and none of you will accompany me in this loneliness. You will take out from the inhabited area and consign me to a deserted place, and leave my flesh to the beasts, birds, and worms. And I will be eaten up by the ants, and more than that, by the lions. My body will be filled with worms and become like a decayed corpse. Degradation will be my companion, and honor will become a stranger. You will try to bury me as soon as possible as an expression of your affection, and leave me alone among the past deeds and sins. I will get regret by way of inheritance and as the final consequence. And you people have promised me that you will be defend me from the harmful enemy. Right now, you neither have the capability of preventing nor any solution of to this problem. Oh people, I am deceiving myself or you are deceiving. And you have laid out a deceptive trap. So the people told their popular ruler, we are not what we were before, and you are also not what you were previously. Whatever has changed, you has also transformed us. So do not reject our repentance and give us a beneficial advice. The king said, I will do as you say for the time being, but when you go against your words, I will leave you. After that, he continued to rule the kingdom, and all his army emulated his behavior. They remained engrossed in worship. Their country became green and fresh. Their enemies were defeated, and their dominion expanded. They continued for 30 years till the death of the king, who lived for a total 64 years. Use Asif said, I am very happy to hear this story. Related some more things like this so that it may increase my joy and thankfulness to the Lord. The Hakim said, it is known among the people that there was a righteous king who had soldiers in his army who feared the Almighty and worshipped him. The king of his father used to be attacked and there was discord among them, but the prince used to reduce the number of enemies from his cities and encourage them to become a religious, God fearing, and seekers of divine help and refuge. When he came to the throne, he defeated his enemies, united his people, and brought reforms in the cities and set up administration of the country. When he was bestowed with so many blessings, he became rebellious and arrogant. He went so astray that he even abandoned the worship of Almighty Allah and became thankless of his favors. He went to extent of eliminating those who worshipped God. His king lasted for quite a long time and people forgot the path of rightfulness than they had previously followed in his initial stage. They remained drunk and only followed his dictates. They hastened towards deviation and remained on the crooked way. Their children grew up in this atmosphere. None of them worshipped God or even uttered his name. Other than the king, they had no other God. Although the prince, during the lifetime of his father, had vowed that if he became a king, he will do things with regard to divine obedience that none of his predecessors have ever done, and neither were they capable of it. But when he became the king, he forgot his previous opinions and intention and was always seen in intoxicated condition from which he never came out again. Among those who were thankful to the king for his favors, there was a righteous man who commanded more respect among his associates. He saddened by the deviation of the king and the fact that he had broken the covenant he had made to God. Whenever he tried to advise the king, later used to warn him not exceed the limits of his positions, even though there was no other person in the kingdom having such status. All the people of the kingdom knew him by name. One day he came to the king with a skull wrapped up in a piece of cloth and sat down on the right hand side of the ruler. Then he removed the skull from the cloth and placed it before the king. Then he trampled it with his feet and continued to rub it on the floor till the seating area of the king was full of particles of skull. The king was enraged at this, and the king and his associates stared at him. With their swords drawn, the guards were just waiting for the command of his execution. The king was trying to control his anger. The king of that time used to contain their anger despite their power and in spite of their disobedience for the sake of the well being of their subjects and for the welfare of their nations, so that this helps them for their benefit and in the collection of land tax. So the king controlled his anger, and finally the man wrapped up the skull and arose from there. He repeated this procedure on the second and the third day also. But when he saw that the king never asked him about the skull, one day he brought a weigh scale and some mud along with the skull. In one pan of the balance, he placed a silver coin, and in the other, he kept mud equal to its weight. Then he placed that mud in the eye socket of that skull and some of it in the skull's mouth. When the king saw him doing this, he could not remain patient anymore and wanted to know why he was doing this. He said, I know you are indulging in such antics only because of the post I have given you and you want to guide me. Although you have a very lofty position in my view, you have done this to invite my attention. The man bowed to the king, kissed his feet, and said, Your Majesty, you have become attentive with your intellect because of the example of a statement is like that of an arrow which, if thrown on soft ground, gets embedded in it. But if it is shot at hard surface, it remains ineffective. And the example of a word is like that of rain. But it falls on fertile ground, it produces vegetation. But when it drops on barren earth, nothing grows from it. And indeed, the desires of the people are different, and intellect and desires both affect the heart. And if the desires dominate intellect, a man acts in anger and foolishness, and if the desires is defeated, no deviation is seen in what he does. I had liking for knowledge since my childhood, and I considered it effective in all my affairs. Thus, I did not forsake knowledge, and I reached a lofty stage due to it. Meanwhile, once I was roaming through the graves, I took out this skull from the graves of kings. I was it was detached from its body. In view of the awe of kings, I found this very regretful. So I picked it up and brought it home. I dressed it in brocade, washed it with fragrance and rose water, and placed it on the floor. I said to myself, if it is from the skulls of king, it deserves respect from my side, and that I must keep it decorated. However, if it be a skull of a poor man, such respect will not be a cruelty upon it. So I continued the same behavior with it for a number of days, but I was not able to learn anything about its life. When I realized this, I called my servant who was very helpful to me. Then I inserted the skull, but its condition remained same. When I saw this, I went to the men of wisdom and asked them about it. They also could not enlighten me on the subject. I also knew that the king was very wise and knowledgeable, so I came to you fearing all the time. But it was not possible for me to ask you anything till you don't tell me about it yourself. And I also wanted you to tell me, Your Majesty, whether it is the skull of a king or a poor man. Because when I thought about it and looked into its eyes, I could not see anything except emptiness. If I could not find out what is behind the skies, I would have come to know what lies above it. So I continue to contemplate what it is that holds the eyes in the sockets. At last, I took mud equal in weight to a silver coin, as the weight of an eyeball is also almost that much, and placed that mud in the socket. But I found that there was nothing which could hold the mud. If you say that it is a skull of a poor man, what will you say when I tell you that I found it in graves of kings? I request you rather to gather the skulls of kings and poor people together. Thus, if it is from the skulls of you kings you have excellence, then what I have said is true, that if you can tell me that it is not from the skulls of kings, I tell you that it belongs to the king who was the beauty of his kingdom and its honor like you are today. Thus, may Allah protect you from this same condition of getting trampled and gets mixed up in the soil on which worms feed, and that you feel shortage after excess, and experience degradation after honor, and placed in a ditch which is around 4 yards in length, and that there is no inheritor of your kingdom, that your remembrance is finished, and your affairs spoiled, and those whom you have recorded greatness be degraded, and those that you have considered debased should be exalted, and that your enemies may rejoice and your helpers be destroyed, that mud may come in between you. Thus, if we call you, you will not answer, and if we accord you honor, you will not accept it, and if we insult you, you will not be infuriated. Thus, your children will be orphaned, and your wives will be widowed, and it is possible that your relatives may get your widows remarried. When the king heard this, he became aggrieved, and he began to weep. He began to utter the words of woe. When the man saw this, he understood that this discourse had the desired effect, that it has pained the king. Thus, his audacity increased, and he repeated what he had said. He said, May Allah give you a good reward, and may He keep you safe from the evil of great people. The king said, I swear by my life, I have understood what you have said. I have realized the truth. When the people heard this news, the excellent persons and other like them praised him, and the king remained in this manner till his last moments. The prince said, Tell me some more stories like this. The Hakim said there was a king in the days gone by who wanted to have a male issue. For this, when he grew up into a young man, one day he said, "Your return to the hereafter restrains you from evils." And the next thing he said, "You will become old." And the third thing he said was, "After that, you will die." Then his condition became like a child. After his birth, the king had summoned the scholars and astrologers and asked them about the fortune of his son. When they tried to conclude his destiny, they were stumped and could not reach any conclusion. When the king saw that they could not say anything, he entrusted the child to the nurses for nursing him. But one astrologer said that very soon he will become an imam and such helpers will be appointed on him who would never leave him. When this child reached adulthood, he left his nurses and guards and secretly and came out in open. He reached a bazaar from where a buyer was being carried. He asked the people, "What is it?" They replied, "A man is dead." He inquired, "What has made him dead?" People said, "Old age and the passage of time destroyed him." Thus his death came near and he died. He asked, "Was he wealthy, alive, and active? Do he eat and drink?" "Yes," said the people. Then he moved ahead and saw a very old man. He was highly astounded on seeing him. So he asked a youth, "What is it?" People explained that he was an old man whose youth had departed and old age has come upon him. The youth asked, "Did he grow up from childhood to youth?" "Yes," said the people. When he moved ahead, he saw a man suffering from disease lying on his back. He stood here, there, and stared at him in amazement. Then he asked the people, "What is it?" They said, "It is a sick man." He asked, "Was he previously healthy and then he fell sick?" "Yes," said the people. The young man said, "By Allah, if what you say is right, people are insane." At that moment, a slave found him in the bazaar and he took him back to his house. When he entered the house, he looked at a wooden beam of the roof and asked, "What type of thing is it?" He was told it was previously a tree. After that, it became a wooden piece. When this house was constructed, it was placed there. Meanwhile, the king sent to him some persons to find what the young prince is talking about. They reported back, "The things he says make us conclude that it is kind of a suspicion." When the king heard this, he summoned the scholars and asked them about it, but none of them could enlighten him about this except the one who had initially predicted, but the king had refused to believe him. Then some scholars said, "If you get him married, all this will come to an end. He all accept that condition and become intelligent and develop insight." So the king sent his men to the country to search for a suitable girl for his son. They found a very beautiful girl, and the king married his son to her. During the marriage feast, performers began to display dances and musicians played music. When the prince heard these combined sounds, he asked, "What is it?" He was told, "These are performers, dancers, and musicians who have come to entertain on the occasion of your wedding." The prince fell silent. When the guests departed after the program, the king called his daughter in law and said, "I have no other son. When you go to him, behave with him kindly and gain his proximity." The young man escaped the surveillance of the guards and left the house. But when he reached the city, he hesitated and he found among the citizens a young man of his own build. He went to him and changed his clothes with him. In this way, his appearance changed. Then the two of them came out of the town and continued to walk the whole night, but in the morning they hid themselves for the fear of being caught. On the other hand, in the morning, when the people asked about him, she said that he was with her a moment ago. The two young men used to travel at night and hide somewhere during the day, till they came out of the territory of his father and entered the kingdom of another king. The king of this area had a daughter about whom it was decided that she will marry the boy she likes. Hence, a tower was constructed for her on the main road in which she sat to watch the passers by. One day her eyes fell on a young man roaming in the market, and his companions was wearing old clothes. The prince sent a message to the king that she has selected a boy and that if he wished he could marry her to this youth. The information reached the queen and she was overjoyed. At once she came to her daughter to look at her choice. She pointed out the young man to her mother. The queen was pleased. She came down from the tower, came to the king, and said, "Your daughter has fallen in love with the young man." So the king also expressed his desire to see the boy. He also was also shown the young man. The king descended from the tower and ordered the youth to change his clothes and asked him who he was and where he lived. The boy said, "Why are you asking me all this? I am a poor man." The king said, "You are a foreigner. Your appearance is not like that of the people of this country." The young man said, I am not a foreigner." The king asked him to prove it, but refused to offer the. So the king appointed some spies on him to find where he lived without his knowledge. Then he returned home and said, "I think he is a prince and he is not interested in marriage." Finally, the king sent a messenger to summon him. The young man said, "I have no worth, yet the king is calling me and I have no need for him from him. And he also doesn't know who am I." Yet he came to the king unwillingly, and the ruler made him sit on a chair. He called his wife and daughter, who sat behind a curtain. The king said, "I have called you for a nice thing. I have a daughter who has taken a liking for you, and I want to give her hand marriage to you. If you are poor, I shall make you rich and increase your status." The boy said, "I don't need what you are offering me, but if you like, I can narrate an example for you. Tell me," the king said. The youth said, "There is a story among the people about a prince who was invited by his friends for a dinner. So he went, and they all ate well and went to sleep in a stated condition. The prince woke in the middle of the night and became restless for his family. So he set out for a home at once. None of his friends were awake, and he walked in a sleepy condition. On the way, he came across a grave, thinking that it was an entrance to his house, and he entered the grave. In his intoxication, when he smelt the stink of the corpse, he thought it was a fragrance. When he saw the bones, he thought it was a bed that was laid for him. When he saw the fresh corpse and felt bad smell, he thought that it was his wife. So he placed his arm. When he regained his senses and saw that he was lying in a corpse, in order to hide the stink and dirt of the corpse that had contaminated his clothes, he headed for the city gates, which stood open. So he reached to his clansmen, thinking himself lucky that he met no one in this condition. He took off his performed the ritual, but put on fresh clothes and applied perfume. "O king, may Allah give you a long age. Tell me if, in your opinion, can that man return to the condition he was in?" "No," replied the king. He said, "I am that same person." The king turned to his wife, a daughter, and said, "I told that he is not interested in marriage." The queen said, "You have not fully praised and described my daughter, so I want to talk to him directly." So the king said to the young man, "My wife wants to come out and speak to you, although before this she has never talked to a stranger." The boy said, "She may come." She came out and said to the boy, "Come to the matter that Allah has given you as a blessing and sustenance. Then I will marry my daughter to you. If you see that what beauty Allah has given her, you shall be amazed." The boy looked at the king and said, "Shall I not tell you a story?" Do," replied the king. The boy said, "Some thief decided to enter the royal treasury and steal from there. So they dug a hole in the wall and went in. They saw such treasures as they had never seen anything like this. Their eyes fell on a pot of a gold which sealed with a seal of gold. They said, 'There is nothing better than this pot of gold, and whatever is inside the pot is better than all we have seen.' So they took the pot and walked away till they entered a forest. They did not trust each other, so they opened the pot at once. The pot was full of snakes that rose up and stung them all, killing them. O king, may Allah give you a long age. Have you ever heard of such an incident when a man put his hand in a pot containing snakes?" "No," said the king. The boy said, "I am such a man." The princess sought the permission of her father to come out and speak to the youth directly. She said, "If he sees my beauty that Allah has given me, he will not refuse to marry me." The king said to the boy, "My daughter wants to come out and speak to you, although she has never come out for anyone else." The boy said, "Let her come out if she likes." She came out to him. She was extremely beautiful and had a after greeting the young man, she said, "Have you seen such a pretty girl? I have fallen in love with you." The young man turned to the king and asked, "Shall I relate to you a famous story?" "Do it," replied the king. The man said, A king had two sons, one of whom left for another country where he was arrested and imprisoned in a house. The ruler of that house issued a command that whosoever passed from there should stone him. A long time passed in this manner. His brother sought the permission of his father to go and find him and try to rescue him. The king said, "Prepare for the journey and take whatever rations and weapons you may need." So he set out fully equipped. He was all accompanied with singing girls and those females who carried veiled on payment. When he reached the capital of that king, the king was informed of his arrival. The king ordered the people to go out for his welcome, and he ordered a young man to camp outside the town. So the prince, disguised as a trader, camped at that place and, after settling down, told his men to unpack their goods and instructed them to be generous while selling the wares to those people. So they followed these directions, and when the prince saw that the people were busy in shopping, he entered the town stealthily. He knew about the prison where his brother was held. He entered the prison and cast a pebble to him so that he may know that his brother was alive. When this prisoner was hit by the pebble, he screamed and said, "Have you killed me?" The royal guards became alert. They came and asked him what was wrong. They said, "You did not. Why did you scream? While we never heard you say a word, even though we were hard on you, and whoever passed from there stoned you. Now, when this man threw a pebble on you, you screamed." The prisoner said, "People had no information about me, but this man hit me even though he knows who I am." The brother returned to his intrigued and said, "Come to me tomorrow, and I will show you such clothes, weapons, and goods as you have never seen before." So the people returned home. When they came back the next day, he ordered his men to unpack and display the clothes. He ordered his performers to begin the show, and the people became engrossed in them. Meanwhile, he came to the prison, cut off the chains from his brothers, and said, "I will get you treated." Then he somehow brought him out of the town and applied ointment on his wounds. When his pain decreased, he was told about directions of the way. "Go now, you will see a boat in the sea." So he headed towards the direction, hiding in the secret. Suddenly, he fell in a deep ditch in which there was a python. Above the ditch was a huge tree. When his eyes fell on the tree, he saw 12 horrible faces upon it. On its lower portion were 12 swords that hung out of the scabbards. He continued to struggle to save himself. A branch of the tree came into his hold, hanging from which he saved himself. Then he walked on till he reached the sea. Then he saw a boat at the shore. He boarded it and went to his country and then to his family. "O king, may Allah give you a long life. Have you seen a person suffer such calamities and then again return to them?" "No," replied the king. The young man said, "I am that man." At last, the king, the queen, and the princess all despaired, but the man who accompanied the prince spoke to the prince in the ear. He gave them proposal to marry the princess to me. So the prince told the king, "This is my companion. He would like to marry the princess." The king said, "I will not." The prince said, "Can I relate to you another famous story?" The king said, "Yes, why not?" The prince said, "A man was traveling with some people in a boat. They traveled for some days. Then their boat was wrecked near an island, and all were drowned except that man whom the waves threw upon that island. The island was inhabited by wild ghosts, and these ghosts used to wash the sea. That man became enamored with a female ghost and married her. In the morning, the witch killed the man and distributed the parts of his body among her companions. The same thing occurred to another man whom they took for the daughter of the king of the ghosts. This man spent the night with the witch, but since this man was aware of what had happened to the man before him, he could not sleep the whole night. Finally, it was morning and the witch went asleep. So the man came out quietly and reached the seashore. Suddenly he descried a boat, and he began to shout to the boatmen to save him. They took him abroad and he was able to reach home. In the morning, when the ghosts came to the witch who spent the night with the man. They asked her, "Where is that man who spent the night with you?" She said, "He ran away from me." They refused to believe and said, "You have eaten him all by yourself and preferred yourself over us. If you don't bring him to us, we would kill you." So she traveled over the sea and reached the home of this man. She entered the house and sat beside the man. She asked him, "What all happened to you during this journey?" The man replied, "I was caught in a trouble from which Allah saved me." And he related the whole story to her. The witch asked, "Have you got free of the troubles?" "Yes," replied the man. She said, "I am that same witch and I have come to take you back." The man said, "I put you under oath not to harm me, and I will tell you the whereabouts of man with whom your purpose will be solved." The witch said, "I feel sorry for you." Then the two of them went to the king. She said to the king, "Your Majesty, may God bless you. Please listen to our problem. I had married this man and I liked him very much, but he dislikes me and doesn't like my company. Please tell me what we should do." When the king saw her beauty, he became infuriated by her. He took the man aside and said, "I want you to leave her so I can marry her." The man said, "May Allah make better what the king intends to do." So the king married the witch. They spent the night together, and at dawn she killed the king, cut him into pieces, and picking up the pieces, headed for her companions. "O king, have you seen anyone who, being aware of all circumstances, may again go to that island?" "No," said the king. The companions who wanted to marry the princess said to the prince, "I don't want to leave you and I don't want to marry her." So they took leave of the king and continued to worship and tour their lands. The Almighty Allah showed many people the right path through them. The prince earned a lot of respect and became famous everywhere. Then he remembered his father and he said to himself, "If I am sent towards him, it is my duty that he to save him from whichever condition he is." So he sent a messenger to his father who told the king, "Your son has sent you his greetings." Then he described all that has passed on him. The king and his family members came to the prince and he saved from them the circumstances they were involved in. After that, Biloha returned to his lodging and continued to visit Yusasif for many days, till he became sure that he has opened a door of knowledge for him and has guided him to the path of rightfulness. After that, Biloha departed from those areas and traveled to other countries, as a result of which Yusasif was sad for some days, but finally he went to the pious and religious people in order to convey to them the voice of truth and call them towards it.